Hi, I'm CJ and this is my RC channel.
Okay, I just spun this around. So now it's servo time. I think this is my first reef servo. Never tried reefs before. Heard good things. It's not one of their super high-end ones. I don't think it's one of those heavily programmable ones. But it is supposed to be a nice, strong, high-torque servo. Let's see what we've got here for specs. 2 ball bearings. Weighs 2.75 ounces. 450 ounces of torque at 6 volts. 500 ounces of torque at 7.4 volts. And at 8.4 volts, 565 ounces of torque. At 8.4 volts, it has 0.08 seconds of speed. So it's pretty fast for being such a torquey servo. 25 tooth, which seems to be pretty standard these days for a lot of the servo manufacturers. So now I got another plastic box to throw parts in. Here's our screw. It'd be nice if they told us how many teeth those were instead of just giving us a letter. Anyway, well, let's see. Yeah, see, this is an example of the items that where it's multi-use. This would be for gas, where you would be like having 2 different inputs. And these are for steering. And I'm going to go ahead and use just one of their stock ones for now. I don't have an aluminum one handy. Let's see. Okay. F is for Futaba. Might as well save those for future use. So I need 4 3x12s to lock this down. And so we face it this way. And we have some spacers that we may or may not need. Okay, let's just start putting the linkage together and we'll go from there. And we have these teeny little button head screws, and I'm trying to see where they want us to put those. And we need bag number 8. Some of the stuff comes from bag 6. And there's the piece that gets those little those little screws. You can already see it. There's this. this anchors the wire, but I see. Okay, that's interesting. We have a little lid. It's like they give us two pairs. Okay, so this little piece right here, this gets anchored to the chassis through these two holes from below, and I'll just use some aluminum screws for that. And then there's two little button head screws that anchor this down on top. Guess they're guessing that your wire is going to fit in there. Okay, that looks like it's about right. I'm screwing it on now because I'm thinking it may be a little hard to get these screws in once this is mounted down. So I kind of figured out how far down the wire it needs to go. But that does keep it from ever contacting that gear, which is smart. Okay, so our linkage. Since all of this is going to need to be adjusted, I'm just cranking this in as tight as it can go at both ends, basically making it as short as it can go. Those are some nice wheel locks. They're lightened, chamfered, and knurled for locking. I'm not sure what these nice aluminum washers are for. They're for flatheads. Maybe they are for the rear wing. We'll find out. Okay, so lock nut number 1, and we're going to be screwing down into there. Might as well get that figured out first. Okay, flathead 3x15s. Do not have titanium for that. Okay, that looks like 16. I know we've had 16s in this build. That's 12. That's a 15. It's nice having that legend. And there's another 15. So one of these just screws into this plastic arm here. I'm surprised there isn't a nut that goes in behind there. And we want our adjuster nut outboard, rearwards, so that we can get to it. Because if you put it in here, you're not going to be able to get to it. Everyone get that? You see how it's longer here? Here's our adjuster nut for this turnbuckle. You want that facing the rear. Yeah, there's got to be a nut that goes at the bottom there. I was feeling under there and it felt like there was space for it, and then this passes right through, so how could you not have one? Now, the hard part's going to be getting that under there. This is the kind of thing I almost wish they'd have us assemble earlier in the process. This is the part where having a third hand would be really helpful. Never had it. Okay. Got it. Okay, this one doesn't need to be nearly that long. Let's see. Oh well, let's just go with it. Yeah, that's way long. Yeah, I'm swapping that out for like a 12. See, now that's perfect. See? Right through the nylon, but flush. Much nicer. Now, they say the spacers are to keep the servo from touching down. In other words, the servo isn't on the, below this height here, which it's not. And I should be pretty level as well, so I don't think I need to make any adjustments there. Let's have a look. Okay. So now we need to center the servo. Get out the good old servo tester. Plug it in. That's a nice servo. Hear this. very precise, very smooth. And we're centered. Cool. So, time to bolt this down. M3x12s. Do we need washers? I think washers would be a good idea. See, this is where boxes of assorted hardware come in really handy. One, two, three, four. M3s. Okay, so I should have tapped those. I'm going to take a second and do that. And I should do the bottoms as well. I've been doing this more and more, even when I'm not using the titanium or aluminum hardware. It does make disassembly and reassembly later easier on you because the hole is fully threaded. I think I could have gone with 8s for these. And I think I'm going to. They just don't need that much thread in them. I mean, that's a lot. Excuse me, 10s. Those are 12s. 10s are still plenty long. Probably could use 8s and never have it come loose on you. But I'll go with 10s. Compromise. And just to show you, okay, that's where we're starting. So all that threaded bolt is going to go into this plastic. If that's not enough, nothing is. And there's 4 of them. So conceivably, I could have knocked 2 more millimeters off and gone with 8 and still had a completely solid servo mount. Now remember I said some of these parts are for the gas. It's just the same parts tree. This is an excellent example. I just remembered what I was thinking about when I saw these. This is the kind of thing where you've got a left and a right action. This one is going to work the throttle, and this one has a basically a wire that is a pull wire on a for the brake, so that you have the opposite of acceleration and then braking, I think. So our servo is centered up. So let's get this lined up onto the teeth that are closest to center, which is probably that. Okay. So from below, we have 4 3x10s. And even though that is the servo, I'm going to go ahead and use aluminum on that. With 4 of them, it's not going anywhere. If that servo broke 4 aluminum screws, 3 millimeters, that's 12 millimeters of aluminum. I don't buy it. It's not going to break them. And this is the advantage of tapping those holes in advance. These screws go in nice and easy. They're still tight. But it's not something that takes all of your strength. Because believe me, you put one of these cars together non-stop over like a 6 to 10 hour period of time, 12 hours, however long it takes you, you will have a very sore wrist and forearm on your dominant hand. Oops. Should have kept these loose until I got all 4 in. Let me just pause up for a second. Okay, so that's done. So now I need to do this. So let's get that in position. And I'm going to use aluminum again, but instead of the 3x10s, I've got some aluminum 3x8s. Well, I haven't tapped these holes, but it's a very small, thin piece of plastic. So I should be just fine. I definitely don't need to worry about strength. I'm just holding a wire down. So there we go. And looks like we've done all the steps there. So that was 47, 48, 49, and 50. Now it's time for the box, the receiver box. Okay, this is just molding. remember seeing a long screw. That must be for these hinges. I just need to find the other one. I hope I didn't drop that somewhere. Oh, it's right here. There we go. Having a hard time getting that started. Let's try doing it without the lid on. Okay. That seems to have done it. Once around with the X-Acto knife, just to chamfer the edge a little bit. Okay. Remember, you don't want to make that tight. You want to be able to open the lid without breaking these little hinge pieces off. So snug it down, just finger tight, and then back off at least a quarter to a half a turn. You want to make sure that things move smoothly. There you go. Okay. So we are going to face it. Faces this way, and our, let's see, I think the reason we have another one of these wire guides is for those two holes down there. I don't remember seeing that. No. They didn't show it to us, but we do have an extra one. And we have the extra screws. Let me just see if those holes are the same size, same distance apart. Yeah. So that'll allow us to keep this wire secure as it travels underneath the drive shaft. We don't have to worry about it getting screwed up. And there's the other screw. I'm going to do the same thing here with this. Two more of those aluminum M3x8s. Wow, this thing's really starting to get its weight on. There we go. There we go. So I'm going to make sure there's a little slack at this end over here. And now one wire from the ESC comes in the box this way, and the wire from the servo comes in this side. And since this is super light, there's just some wire in that box, and my receiver, which is itty bitty, I can go ahead and just use these 3x8 aluminums, same ones I used to hold those little wire holders down. This is perfect. This aluminum hardware has really come in handy. It's definitely shedding weight. It's small amounts proportionately, because this, many things, I mean, this is not even slightly a two-wheel drive buggy, but it's still weight coming off. And weight coming off is always a good thing. Every little bit helps. Remember, you don't want to strip out the box, the holes in the bottom of the box. It's not a lot of plastic down there, so you just want to get these finger tight. It's not going anywhere. It's just a receiver box. You're not holding on the suspension or anything. So, a couple fingers on the wrench. So now there's our little grub screw, and we need an antenna wire or housing. I'm pretty sure they gave us some. Yep. Still going old school. I haven't seen an antenna on a receiver long enough for one of these big whip antennas in a long time. Let's see. Look at that. Oh, that's some really thin hose. I mean, it's tight. The inner diameter. Okay, I was just making sure steering is number 1, throttle is number 2. So oh, I haven't bound this yet. Let's go ahead and do that. Let's go ahead and confirm that. Let's take our steering servo, plug that in here, plug in our power, and we are set. So that's easy. Let's get our ESC line plugged in. We're going to be soldering wires soon. Okay. Time for battery trays. Let's start by trimming them. Let's get them both. I'm not sure if we have to cut that off or not. Yep, we do. Says so right there in step 56. See, 3x10s. I'm going to go ahead and use aluminum again. On this part, it just seems like a no-brainer. Again, it's not a big strength item. The batteries are really being held down by the straps. That doesn't seem like it's long enough. I'm going to use some 12s instead. Yeah, see? Well... I think 10s are going to do the job just fine. Okay, so we only mount on one side. It's got to come back around and over like that, so it's got to face this way. Okay, let me show you guys again. It's got to come under the box, up and around, into the tab, and pull back onto itself to anchor. So you've got to slide it through with the Velcro contact side facing away from the box, like that. Like that. And I would do it so that the rings face into the car, so the tabs pull to the side. And there's an obvious reason for that, which I will show you in just a moment. Right, reason being, when this is bolted down, you don't want this tab. If this tab here was facing out, it might find a gear one way or another, and you don't want that. So again, contact side facing away from the box. So now we need 6 3x10s, and I'm going to use aluminum again, even though the batteries are reasonably heavy. I mean, they're only 2 S's, so, and there's 3 of these screws per. Now, it's not going to break 3 screws. It's more likely the plastic would break before you would break the screws, so I don't see any reason to not just go ahead and do it that way. Go ahead and use aluminum. I mean, steel isn't going to provide so much more strength that it's going to keep this thing from getting away on you. If it decides to do it, it's doing it. Yeah, that's not going anywhere. Wow, we are just about there. And I was correct about these fancy aluminum washers. Those are for our wing. Okay, so we have 2 dams. Let's see, how do they have this set up? So we put it over like that. And we have a long and a short. I'm going to go with the bigger one first. And they give us some plastic washers. Those would be lighter, but I do like the aluminum ones. They do look like they'll hold better for sure. Okay, so we need 3x12s, flatheads, 2, and 2 3mm lock nuts. I want to see just how far these actually pass through. Okay, good long ways. This is a little different. Okay, what we've got is there's a slot in the side here where these bolts go into. In one side, out the other. Needle nose pliers helps. And then you kind of want to use a driver to make sure they fit through. And then I would test to make sure that the nut is in place and that it threads in. Okay, good. Okay, that is not long enough. That looks like it's going to do fine. Okay, spare parts. And that's it. Just little things like Velcro tape on the body and gluing tires and stuff like that. So now it is time to go back to shock absorbers. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please click like and please subscribe to my channel.